Willow Creek Springs presents Healthy Living with your host, Joe Grumbine.
Well, hello and welcome to the Healthy Living Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Grumbine, and I've got with us today Dr. Robert Hoffman. Robert, welcome to the show.
Joe, always my pleasure to be on.
Well, it's always fascinating to share and tap into your wealth of knowledge and experience, and it's my pleasure to always be able to access and have you come in here. It's wonderful.
Called straight talking.
We've been talking, yeah, exactly. We get into facts and experience rather than, I don't know, theory and feelings. And so many people talk about how they feel about things, and we're trying to solve real problems here. And for anybody who's ever had cancer or known anybody who's gone through having cancer, there couldn't be anything more serious. And the notion of working with people that are trying to understand how cancers work and how to be able to
fight it,
keep them in control. We talk about curing, but we don't really.
No curing.
Nobody knows how to cure cancer, but we know how to keep them in check and keep them from taking over your life and your body and ultimately causing your demise. We all live with cancer cells floating in our body, but we can't see them, we can't hear them. Scanners can't scan them, but they're there. Anytime you get a mutated cell to a certain point, theoretically, it could grow into a cancer, right?
Right. So we got to keep things under control.
Exactly. And that's what this is all about.
Science. Good science is what underscores all of this.
So I got a couple of things I want to talk to you about. In last week's Zoom call, you brought up a really interesting point and submitted a paper. And for those of you who are listening for your first time, Dr. Hoffman has put on for many years now a Zoom call on Sundays at 4 p.m. Pacific time. And the link is in the show notes here. So if you're listening to this, pop it open and look at the show notes. A link to that Zoom, you can join just by clicking the link. But it's a group of people that have all experienced cancer or are supporting somebody who is. And the thing that we all have in common is our knowledge of and using the low methionine diet, as well as the methioninase enzyme that you produce, Dr. Hoffman. But we also talk about many, many, many treatments, combinations of treatments, doing things, not doing things, testing things out. Where just about everybody on the call is their own science experiment. We've all taken agency over our own health. We've all decided that we're the ones responsible. So we're willing to take chances that maybe the doctors aren't. We're willing to tell the doctors what we want. We're willing to go and find a doctor that'll do what we do want. And we share our experiences and support each other in that way. And then most of the time, some of the work that you do in your lab comes up as a published report. We'll talk about it. So in this last one, you published a report about inoculating a biome, a gut biome with a bacteria that produces methionase. And I thought it took me a minute for that to really sink in, but it seems brilliant because ultimately when we consume the methionase, it goes into our GI tract and sits in our intestines and works for a little while, for 4 to 6 hours, something like that, and kind of negates the methionine that's passing by. But what if you had a bacteria in there just doing that all on its own, creating that methionase and causing even to limit or reduce the amount of methionine that's being introduced into your bloodstream at any given time? It seems like a win-win. So let's talk about that for a second, and what would hold us back, or tell us a little bit about your experience with that. It just really kind of blew my mind that's an amazing thought to execute.
Okay, so full disclosure, there's a group in China doing similar things. Maybe they might even be a bit ahead of us. We don't know, but they're doing good. So we ourselves have worked on what we call tumor targeting bacteria for most of this century. A number of bacteria seem to have they naturally target tumors. Maybe there's a lot more nutrients in a tumor.
Or just the kind they want to eat.
It's the kind they want to eat. And one of those bacteria that we worked on mostly was Salmonella. Everybody hears the word Salmonella, they go, ooh.
Right.
So, but what we did with the Salmonella is we defanged it, so
Okay.
it doesn't grow in the normal tissue. And so, and we're working on getting the methioninaise gene into this Salmonella, but we're a little bit. So on the way to doing that, we said, why don't we try the bacteria in which we ferment to produce the methioninaise in our fermenter? And why don't we try to just give that to some mice with tumors and see how they do? So this is an E. coli bacteria, and when people hear E. coli, they don't get not so scared.
Right.
And our gut is full of E. coli, different strains. The word coli comes from colon, and
Right.
Escherichia. So some guy Escherish or something. He just a long time ago. So this was the work done by Dr. Kubota when he was in the lab here, a really brilliant guy. And he started just in giving my mouth the E. coli that produced methioninaise. And that's how the same E. coli we put in our fermenter, and that's how we get the first step in making the methioninaise that we send out to the patients. So this bacteria was making good methioninaise in the mouse's digestive system, and we could inhibit the cancer. As you say, it's a great way to go, because if this E. coli that makes methioninaise could integrate itself into our so-called microbiome, the thousands and thousands of different kind of bacteria we all have in our gut that keep us healthy, or if something goes wrong, they make us sick, but mostly they keep us healthy. So I think we made some steps. Looks like we might have integrated at least to some point into the gut. We could collect the feces, and we could grow the bacteria out of them. So that was all good. So this is a project that needs to be worked on more, and we're going to do it. There's only so much time in the day, but this is one of the projects that has priority. We're going to be working on the E. coli that produces methioninaise. We introduced the gene into it, and we've also introduced the gene into the Salmonella. So we'll be working on that. The Chinese group have a different Salmonella, I think not as good as our Salmonella, in which they introduced methioninaise, and they want to inject it. And I think that's going to be a long and tough road to getting to the patient. The authorities like the FDA are going to be kind of scared of injecting something like Salmonella into somebody's bloodstream. So the E. coli seem to do really well by mouth, hoping that our tumor targeting bacterium can also do well giving it by mouth. So far, so good. And in so doing, we just call it a probiotic. You go to CVS Pharma,
I love it.
umpteen million different kinds of microorganisms that you plop down in a pill or a liquid or whatever, and that's
Right.
make you live forever. So I like the probiotic strategy, just like I like the supplement strategy for our oral methioninaise. And so that's where we are, Joe. It's that paper you saw was a few years old, and it's promising. and we're going to go forward on it. You know, we got a million things going, and so each one kind of has its own time frame, but it's going to get there.
One of the reasons I like talking about your current work is because, most people know that, this podcast is really designed for patients to find information and to learn tools and options that they might have to.
Or they might have in the future.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, just knowing that this is being worked on would say that,
And
yeah,
they understand they got to keep alive because
right.
something better in the future.
100%. 100%.
Things you never give up your hope, and you never give up your fight.
Exactly. And that was one of the things that I always would never give up, because I always thought to myself, well, what if I let go and quit, and then the day after I died, some great new breakthrough happened because I didn't hang on one more day. I just couldn't imagine that, I mean, not that I would give up anyways, but just, there was always one more thing. I was like, yeah, they're working on so many things.
Right. That's right. You never know every day is something new. Every day we know more things. So the cancer patient, the most important thing for the cancer patient is to keep their hope. Their hope.
100%.
Medicine of everything. Never lose it, and never let some oncologist tell you you're going to die in 2 months. They can go to where. So this is it.
100%.
Never give up hope. Always keep fighting. Always keep learning.
Yes. Yeah. Keep trying, keep learning, keep pushing, keep exploring, but most of all, keep trying.
Yeah.
And so the other thing that I have is kind of an ulterior motive, is that I always think that somewhere along the way, somebody who has a means to help out research is going to listen to this and go, oh, wow, that's something I'd be willing to invest in, or that's something I'd want to make a donation to. And you have a nonprofit, and you are not funded in a traditional way. You don't have big money behind you. You don't have.
What you do is a donation from the patient.
Exactly. And so if for some chance we were to reach somebody who, maybe some philanthropist, maybe some rich guy who lost his wife to cancer. I mean, whatever. There's some million.
Rich guy who survived.
Right. All of it.
Cancer hits the poor people, and it hits the rich people pretty equally.
Yeah.
It's very equal opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. We talk often about Steve Jobs and how he had all the money in the world, and
He wasn't thinking well for
yeah.
he was in La La Land thinking he could do all this crazy stuff, and he had a very unusual and vicious type of pancreatic cancer, and he ran out of time.
Right. Right. So anyways, again, if we were to stumble upon somebody who wanted to help you develop, this or any of the amazing experimental work you're doing, yeah, this is a way that they could find out about you. So, that's.
And every dollar goes into research. There's no bureaucracy. There's no managers. There's none of that kind of crapola. It's all goes to research.
I love it. I love it. So the second point I wanted to make, and thinking back, I was listening or remembering some of the conversations we had, and Shihiro was actually talking about this as well. I think it was somebody in China that was doing it, where they were getting a live sample of their tumor and sending it off to a lab where they were growing it in a culture. And you sent me a book about that process of growing it in the sponge culture. And I spent a bit of time walking through that book. I have a lot more to learn. There's a lot of information in there, but I grabbed onto enough pieces that says, all right, I think in some vague general way, understand what you guys are doing with that regard. But I recently stumbled upon an article that was talking about a lab in Greece that was doing a similar thing, and people were sending a live piece of their tumor tissue to this lab, and then they were taking it and growing it in a culture and then testing out different therapies against that tumor to see which one was going to be more effective at treating it. And in looking at the book that you sent me and some other papers, it seems that it's not necessarily as cut and dry as we'll find a medicine that'll knock it out. So that'll work for you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? We talked the other day about it, and you were telling me how this was kind of a common thing back in the 70s for a little while. And then a paper came out and said it doesn't work. And then all of a sudden they just stopped. And I was like, wow, how ridiculous is that? Like, what if they did that about rocket engines, you know? Oh, it's not going to work. Okay, well, we just won't do that anymore. I mean, there's so many things that just don't work until they do, you know?
Hi, this is Joe Grumbine, and I wanted to share an update. The platform that hosts this podcast has made some changes to the subscriber settings, and we have a number of subscriber-only episodes that we offer to the supporters, and for a minimum of $3 a month, we can get you signed up. And if you're already signed up and you're having some kind of trouble locating these episodes in the other platforms, I would say maybe the best answer is to unsubscribe and then resubscribe. I'm sorry for the hassle. I don't have any way to make a change, but I'm very grateful for all the support. Thank you.
All right, tell your story.
All right.
All right. So we talk about somebody walks into the ER and they have sepsis.
Okay.
Oh my God, they got an infection in their bloodstream.
All right. Terrible.
Ooh. Well, what do?
Yeah.
Well, we take a little bit of the blood and we do what's called culture and sensitivity.
Okay.
Culture the whatever is in the blood in a medium, in a dish, whatever. We culture it, and then we take a panel of antibiotics, A, B, and C, and D, and we see which one is the best one or which two are the best.
Right.
And we say to the patient, and maybe we have these data pretty quick, maybe next day,
Yeah.
real fast, maybe same day, and we say to the patient, okay, antibiotic A looks pretty good. We're going to give you antibiotic A. We're going to keep you in the hospital overnight, and we're going to see how good antibiotic A does. And lo and behold, antibiotic A did good, and the patient goes home the next day. All straightforward. Culture the bugs, culture what's in the blood, treat it with a panel of different antibiotics, and see which one may work. Now, fortunately, there's some really mean machine bacteria that don't respond to the usual antibiotics and have to do all kinds of tricks to help the patient. But normally, the patients, they get a sepsis, they're going to be okay because the almost any hospital can do a culture and sensitivity. So why we can't do that for cancer?
Right.
So, and the answer is we can. So,
Right.
So now this goes back a long way. There were a couple of guys in the 50s. I think their name, one guy was Dr. Black and another guy was Dr. Spear or whatever. And they were culturing slices of tumors in the lab, and they stayed alive a long time. And oh boy, that was good. I'm not sure they did any chemo tests or not. And probably some people did. But when it first caught on with a guy called Sidney Salmon, and of all people, he worked with a lady called Gail Hamburger. Salmon and Hamburger. And they were taking tumors, and they kind of minced them up into single cells, and they would put them in on auger plates in the lab. And if you didn't do anything bad to them, they would grow as colonies, and you could count the colonies. It was really straightforward. It was called the salmon hamburger clonogenic assay or something like that. You can look it up, salmon and hamburger. You like fish or meat, you got it. So these folks published their results in about 1978 or so. It was a good year. They published their results in the New England Journal of Medicine. Now, the New England Journal of Medicine has more authority than the Old Testament. I mean, it's just the ultimate.
Right.
And everybody, oh boy, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it, and everybody was doing it. And you know, it's like sheep, and so this became extremely popular. The salmon hamburger assay or clonogenic assay. And they would put the chemo in there, and if there were less colonies, that meant the chemo was working. If there weren't less colonies, that chemo wasn't working. And it made its rounds. And Salmon had a younger fella. He was kind of bringing up a guy called Dan von Hoff, who went on to become maybe the most famous oncologist in the whole cosmos at one time, maybe still. He's over 80 now, still going good. So then in about 1983, some guys published another paper, also in the New England Journal. And they started nitpicking, oh, this and this and this, that's wrong, and this is wrong. And these assays don't work. Not science, just say they don't work. And that was the end.
Wow.
It never recovered. The salmon and hamburger thing, it never recovered. And you get sort of these rump little labs like us or the one in Greece. So we got into it almost 40 years ago. I had a young medical student, Bob Vecchio, who's now a very prominent clinician. And Bob was very bright. And we were working at that time on growing tumors on what are called sponge gels, we call gel foam. The doctors use them as hemostats in the surgery clinic, but they're very good to grow. They come from pig skin, and it's gelatinized pig skin. And a guy called Joe Layton discovered these are a great way to grow tumors. Joe discovered this in the 50s, and nobody remembers Joe except me. But he was a great, great scientist, Joe. And that book is one of the photos you'll see in the book is a picture of Joe. And so we kind of followed Joe, and we learned how to do 3D culture on these sponge gels, gelatinized pig skin called gel foam. And we started treating them with drugs. And our colleagues in Japan did huge clinical trials using this technology. We eventually called it the histoculture drug response assay, HDRA, histoculture 3D culture. And we found the Japanese clinical trials, there were two very big ones, that there was good correlation what happens in the dish, the cancer responding to the drug, and what happens in the patient. Really good, really good. But that 1983 New England Journal paper hung very heavy. And we were trying to get this established as much as we could in San Diego. And the only time that the docs got interested in it was when another doc got cancer. Then they wanted this assay.
Of course.
When a regular person got cancer, there was no interest because there's extra steps. The pathologist has not to put the whole thing in the pickle juice because that kills it, the formalin. You got to keep some of it alive because if it's not alive, it's not going to grow. So that was just painful. Nobody wanted to do it.
Theoretically, you could schedule a biopsy just specifically for the purpose of gathering that.
You just a couple times, Joe, when the patient consented and they were desperate to get better information on how to
Oh,
be
I would do it in a second.
well, but you know about it, and getting this knowledge was really hard.
Yeah,
Dr. Song remembers me from the 80s going to
yeah,
every tumor board, begging, 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 give me tissue, give me tissue. He remembers that, and he thought
yeah.
that's what I wanted when I came over. And actually, I just is the little bit of chemo left in the bottle, which we could use in the lab. So we gave up commercializing this, but there was a company in Japan, a kind of lab company. They did it, and they did it for some years, but the Japanese FDA was reimbursing it for less than what it cost them.
Oh boy.
So they eventually gave it up. And we were lucky that there was a very nice lab in what's called Fukui University on the Japan Sea. They were Dr. Sasaki was doing it, and we collaborated with them. And eventually, recently, Dr. Sasaki's great technician, she quit, so they can't do it there anymore. So it's come back to us. So we're doing occasional testing for patients in Japan, especially with the one doctor, Dr. Yonimura, who's in his late 70s. He's operating every day on patients nobody else wants to touch. They have peritoneal metastasis. Everybody says, go to hospice. He says, I'm going to try to help you.
Yeah, we need more of him.
And so we're taking over from Fukui University and doing the testing for them, those patients, Dr. Yonimura's patients. It's a small group, but these are people who have no recourse. They have, and some of them are going on methionase, which is good. They failed all the first line, second line, third line chemo, whatever. They end up with peritoneal metastasis, and the knee-jerk reaction to all those patients is just go to hospice.
All right.
But Yonimura, he operates on them. And some of the tissue that he gets used to go to the university, now coming back to us. It comes by FedEx from Japan, but still good. So we're back doing this on a small scale. But that's all it is. And you ask 10,000 oncologists, you going to do anything like this? And 9,999 are going to say, are you kidding me? They don't want anything to do with it. It's extra work. And somehow that 1983 New England Journal of Medicine paper, even though most of these guys weren't even born then, it's in the DNA of oncology. This doesn't work. So that's where we are, Joe, and it's not going to spread. If we can help with patients, we're happy to do it within our very limited, staff. Everything.
Well, once again, I'm gonna, throw that out there that this is another thing. When I heard about it, I mean, I know it's not an exact bulletproof science because just because something happens in a lab setting doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work in the.
How to do the clinical trial.
Right, exactly.
And we did the trials in that new paper from China that I just sent you.
Yeah.
Doing this assay, they compared their lab results with the HDRA with the clinical outcome and got very good correlation.
Yeah.
And maybe this will start spreading in China. A lot of new things are spreading in China, and it's good. But it's not going to spread here. No way.
It's troubling. I realize, like, we talk about it a lot. There's a lot of people that are, into natural answers, and they think there's some big conspiracy with the pharma companies and the doctors. And, we don't believe that. I don't believe that. But when you think about something like this, you go, why in the hell wouldn't they just put some energy at something that would likely work and probably would not do any harm?
Because the 1983 New England Journal paper said it doesn't work.
Right.
That's going to be ingrained in stone for I don't know how many more 100 years.
Wow.
It doesn't work, and it's extra work, and who's going to pay for it?
Right.
And
Right.
why do I need to do this? I have my guidelines. My guidelines tell me what's first line, what's second line, what's third line. Why I have to mess with the guidelines? I'm not going to mess with the guidelines. I'm going to get in trouble.
Exactly.
I work for Sloan Kettering, and I make a lot of money in Sloan Kettering.
There you go.
The guidelines, that's what they say over there.
Right. Right.
Nobody's interested. First, the New England Journal says it doesn't work. Our clinical trials we did in Japan were exquisite. The patients, it was beautiful correlation. And this brand new paper out of China, which I sent to you, and you can
Yeah.
to all your listeners, it's so promising. And surprise, we showed it was promising with these clinical trials we did were in the 90s, Joe, the early 90s. And they were published in good journal like the Clinical Cancer Research.
Right.
Be published in that journal now. Oh, no. But back then it could. So there's no conspiracy. It's ignorance. It's misinformation. It's disinformation. You don't need a conspiracy. It's all right.
Well, you said before, who's going to pay for it?
I mean, you don't need a conspiracy. It's already dead.
Exactly. Well, like I said, I think if we can solve the who's going to pay for it problem. So here's
even not who's going to pay for it. What doc is going to order it?
Right. That's true.
It'll work.
Right.
The surgeon has to do something extra. The pathologist has to do something extra. Right. The oncologist has to read the results and has to decide, am I going to do that or am I going to do the guidelines? So, you get a bacterial infection, it's so natural.
Right.
Culture and sensitivity. Come on in, we'll take care of you. You'll be out of the hospital in a couple days. Wow. Culture and sensitivity. The same principle works. You can grow tumors. You can culture tumors. You can sensitivity. You can do it. But nobody wants to do it.
We talk about this a lot that, as this show's growing, as my voice is reaching more people are finding me. I have a new client that reached out to me today. She's got ovarian cancer and wants to talk about what I know. We have an appointment to talk tomorrow. Obviously, I'm going to talk to her about, the diet and the enzyme and all these other things. But I'm also going to talk to her about the call. And I think that for anybody who wants to learn about this, like, who knows, maybe there's somebody going to listen to this that's got just...
We'll do this on a small scale, Joe. We'll have to recover our own costs. We'll discuss it another time.
But if just the right person was listening to this and was told that they're inoperable, that they're going to die, they got hospice.
That happens 1 million times a year.
And they said, wait a minute, I got enough money to try everything I could. They literally could hop on that call and have a conversation with us and possibly find their way to solving it this way, at least a chance. And that's out there.
Our ability, my honest feeling, we can help people.
Right.
Within our capacity. Let me tell you a story, Joe.
Sure.
A horror story.
All right.
So most of the bigger hospitals have what are called tumor boards.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
A week or whatever it is.
Right.
And I don't know if they're open. If they're not open, they can sneak in. It's no big deal. Just pretend you're a doc. And then they discuss some cases.
Right.
Here's how it goes. Oh, I think we should use this drug. No, another guy. No. We should use that drug. Another guy or girl. No. We try this drug. Are you kidding me? That's the way it goes, Joe. That's what happens to the tumor boards. Okay, these are people, maybe the ones that make it to the board have very advanced disease. They've gone through the first, second line of chemo, maybe more or whatever. And that's the conversation. Oh, this one. No, that one. Absolute, just guess.
That's madness. Yeah.
And here we are. This is, what year is this now? 2026 or something?
Yeah.
It's like that. It's and these, most of these folks at some point or another probably had a surgery. There could have been some tissue left over for culture and sensitivity.
Sure.
So that's the way it is. It's and the guessing between the various docs at the tumor board can be so radically different. What's
Wow.
the right guess? And by the time, I mean, how many times can we try? Because we probably have only a little bit of time left unless we get something working. So the way it
And
is.
you know what? To contrast that, when I was in a situation where I needed to do something quick because my tumor was going to kill me pretty fast, you and I sat together.
First line,
Yeah.
yes.
But you and I sat together. We both went down and researched. We both got back and we talked about, looks like these three drugs together could do the job. We both went back and looked again and agreed that that seems like a good solution. And I went to my doctor and I said, hey, will you do this for me? That's a big stark contrast to throwing it up to a tumor board and hoping that they come back with some idea. And
But it would have come up with nothing.
I,
So we were lucky. We came up with a good guess,
yeah,
and that nice lady at UC Irvine agreed to do it.
right,
We were lucky. A lot of people aren't so lucky.
right.
So, that's the way it is, Joe. That's the way it is. Oy. It's the level of science of cancer treatment and cancer research, the scientific level is low.
It seems that way. The more I learn, the more I
And
am
these guys go around, the leaders, the opinion leaders, strutting around and getting all
right.
prizes and money, and they're full of it.
Well, and not only that, but when you go into a cancer center, like when I was at UCI, you're going into a pretty fancy place and it's got all the big technology and you got these robots and scanners and bells and whistles and everything's just seems like you're literally in the leading edge of science. It seems that way.
The scanners, and that's really great science,
Yeah.
unbelievable, so good. That's very high tech.
Yeah.
And the engineers who made all that,
Right.
they're first rate.
Yeah.
But the average oncologist or the average cancer researcher, or even the fancy cancer researcher, not so good.
No, I'm getting that. Well, Robert, as always, this has been a fascinating exploration. I feel like in some small way I'm walking with you in your research and I'm learning as I'm going. I'm trying to, dig a little bit deeper. You send me research materials to read and I'm learning a little bit along the way. So when you tell me a reference to something, I understand a little bit more about what it is and how it works. And you know, I hope to God I go through the rest of my life and never have another tumor. And it's possible that I will with the steps I'm taking. But if I do, I know that exactly what the next move is. I've already plotted my course to where if something shows up on a test and it's not right, I already have my next move set, not starting from scratch and losing months of time where that thing keeps growing and getting stronger. No way. I'm preliminarily ready to shoot before it turns into anything. So I appreciate your direction and your guidance and your persistence. You've got that same spirit that I have of just never give up. You keep on going and you keep on going and then you keep on going some more.
There's no such thing.
Exactly. Well, Robert,
No, I was going to say, if some listeners are here and they're going to have maybe a surgery and they can get their hospital degree to agree to get some tumor tissue, we can try to help them. They can, if you go to PubMed, Hoffman RM, You look under three-dimensional culture or histoculture drug response assay, or you'll see a ton of papers, tons of papers on PubMed that we've published since 1987, 86 on this topic. 40 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
It's a long time. And, you know, if and all this can be automated, it's there. It's there. And we've shown by clinical trial, we have good correlation with the tumor growing in 3D culture and being treated by drugs and the clinical outcome. It's there. It works. As you say, is it perfect? No. But the patients who, as the Chinese paper says, the patients who are treated by the results of the HDRA assay in total do better than those that are not. That doesn't mean every patient, but if you take all the patients together, they do better, and they do significantly better with regard to the most important thing, which is called disease-free survival.
There you go, right there.
Surviving without the thing coming back.
That's where I currently exist.
That they have a statistical significance of doing better. Read the Chinese paper.
I will. Absolutely. And, you know, realistically, even if the only thing it told you was what wasn't going to work, it would still avoid people getting
tremendous information.
Exactly.
The toxic chemicals that don't work to avoid them. Oh boy, that's invaluable, Joe. Invaluable.
Exactly. All right, Robert. Well, as always, this has been a joy to spend this time talking with you, and we'll get back at it again sooner than later.
You're the #1 cancer patient in the world.
I love it. I am, to me, that's for sure. Yeah. And I look forward to talking with you on Sunday.
Okay,
if this
consultation, it's my honor.
Yeah, and if this consultation tomorrow goes well and she's receptive, I'll send her your way and we'll go from there.
Oh, we should talk on a Zoom. We need to,
Yeah, 100%.
I want to get somebody all excited and their hospital doesn't cooperate.
Exactly.
I'll leave you with one horror story.
All right.
Back in the 80s, this patient, we had everything arranged for her. And she had colon cancer, everything arranged. And the operating room, the curse word, the idiots, put the tumor in formalin.
And
of course, I mean, all the things that Murphy's Law is there.
Yeah, all of it.
Everything, all these things that need to be overcome.
Wow, that's crazy.
If you put enough money in, if the hospital got enough money to do it, the doc got money to do it for his or her pocket, that will help.
Exactly.
Got to pay the money.
Well, we're working at solving all those problems.
Joe, I want you to do some homework.
All right.
Wiesenthal.org.
Okay, I will.
Then we can talk about that. A lot of things we're talking about today, he can talk about much better.
Sounds good. I will bring my findings to the call on Sunday.
Okay.
Awesome. All right, Robert. Well, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to spend time with you.
With you too.
This has been another episode of the Healthy Living Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Grumbine, and I want to thank all of our listeners for making this show possible, and we will see you next time.
You bet. Thank you.
This has been another episode of the Healthy Living Podcast. We produce this show so that people can share their stories, people that have overcome obstacles, people that are undergoing obstacles. We're building a community of health-minded individuals. If you're interested in supporting the show, please leave a review on the platform you're listening to it on. If you're interested in becoming a guest, please send an email to itsjoegrumbine@gmail.com, or you can send a note into the notes section of the podcast. All right. Well, thank you for supporting this show, and we hope you've enjoyed it.